Vijay government has had a very narrow save from an almost dictatorial turn. I'm calling it a near miss because of the eventual U-turn. The controversy erupted after the TVK government issued a directive asking schools, colleges, police and district administrations to stop students and youth from participating in protests organized by the likes of Cockroach Janata Party and left parties. A subsequent communication to government arts and science colleges made the instruction even more explicit. Principals were told to coordinate with authorities, prevent students from joining such agitations, and submit action taken reports. That order, however, lasted barely a couple of days. It was an order released on the 17th of August, taken back on the 19th. CJP called the order unconstitutional and irrational, while the BJP backed it, arguing that students should focus on their careers instead of political protests. The DMK, meanwhile, accused TVK of hypocrisy, pointing to the party's strong youth-centric election campaign and its appeal to young voters. And that is where this story gets interesting. Because Vijay's TVK did not merely attract young voters. The youth was central to its enigmatic political win in Tamil Nadu assembly elections. Access My India data showed TVK getting around 68% support among first-time voters and 59% among voters aged 20 to 29. Well, from the order to the rollback, politics, hypocrisy, or big lessons. Mr. Prabhu joins us right now. He's a DMK spokesperson. Shekhar Vijay joins us. He's a political analyst. And Pentapati Pullarao, who's a political analyst as well. Thank you very much, all three of you, for joining me at this point. Mr. Shekhar Vijay, and let's just start with you. What does one make out? You know, I mean, a very, very important order. I won't say a very important order, a very controversial order on a very important, sensitive issue. And to think that the TVK government would have come out with something like that. Fair enough that they've retracted it. But in those 3 days, what happened? And eventually the retraction, but the move also stayed. How do you look at this?
Sneha, thank you for having me over and good evening to all my fellow panelists. Now, you know, I was reading about the order and reading when the order was retracted also. I guess it's very ironic. The government which was sworn in by the Gen Z, the government which was, supported by Gen Z, the government was putting an order out against them. But I think better sense prevailed. And the ability to course correct is also a sign of leadership somewhere. So I think in politics, Sneha, the ability to course correct is also a sign of maturity. I would question the original directive, but I wouldn't use a withdrawn order to declare that the entire, TVK government is anti-democratic. The fact that they course-corrected, the fact that they tried to make a change in 3 days and they made it possible, I think better sense prevailed. They also understood what they're doing is wrong and they wanted to course-correct it. See, young people cannot be protected from politics, but they have to be prepared for politics. So the answer is not to tell people, not to tell students which protests they should or shouldn't attend. The answer is to give young people or the young generation enough political awareness to hear every ideology, every question, every party, and then make their own decision. And I think that's the blueprint for our constitution. That's the blueprint for democracy. They can question, they can argue, they can agree to disagree to agree, and that can happen. But it's also important to understand that your voice has to be heard, and that's the true element of democracy. That's a true element of what we are really looking at in terms of what the constitution also says. So I think the CJP government, yes, they did make a mistake in terms of the original order, but they retracted it quickly. And I think that's equally important because how you course correct is also very important in leadership. And they did just that.
You know, Shekhar Vijay, before I go to the others, I also want to ask you this. What do you think happened? Was this a bureaucratic error? Was this inexperience at play? Or was this testing waters? Because whatever said and done, you can't just say, oh, it's a new government and therefore the error happened. How do you look at it? What really happened?
I think it's a mix of all three, Sneha. I think it could be a mix of, it could be a theoretical error, but I think it's also about testing waters. And they've also realized, they've seen what has happened in the past few days. with Gen Z, the way they protested, with the kind of protest how it happened, how it was done so peacefully, and what happened after that. And I think it's a knock for every government, be it the central government, be it the state government, that you cannot take people for granted, right? If they had done this and they waited 3 days for this, I think it's very surprising. And now that they've done it, they've course corrected it. I think it's most important that they actually course corrected and brought it to a different. The conversation is moving to a different direction. But I
Right.
think 3 days they have done some soul searching. They have understood that they've made a mistake. They also were testing the waters, but they also realized that this Gen Z is the one which brought them into power. If you look at it, Sneha, we're talking about Gen Z only after Vijay came into power. Vijay has come into power specifically because the Gen Z voted for him. So if he does not realize where is voting, where he is coming to
68% of
power
the
from,
first time voters is
yes,
is no
absolutely.
laughable number. In fact, let me just get in Mr. Prabhu to what you are saying. Mr. Prabhu, DMK has called TVK a hypocrite, calling the entire episode of what has happened nothing but a hypocrisy. Why?
Ma'am, it's not a bureaucratic error. It's a conscious policy decision. This TVK government has failed to meet the aspiration of Gen Z people. Change is not always necessary for good. As the Tamil Nadu electorate voter rate is finding out, they are feeling shortchanged. The performance of TVK government so far has been nothing short of disaster. In a democracy, people have every right to protest peacefully for the rights. That is an essential part of democracy. In fact, to look at Tamil Nadu's political history, looking at going back to 1967, students' movement led by Perarinjan Anna, our Dravidian icon and party founder, that was a big catalyst in bringing about the regime change in Tamil Nadu, unseating the mighty Congress then, who was in power, and seating DMK in power. But today, in Tamil Nadu, the terms dissent, protest, and I'll go to the extent of saying merely voicing the opinion on the livelihood issues, on day-to-day public issues that are allergic to TVK government. They want to suppress people's voice
Why are you saying that? What makes you say that?
because they are following in the footprints of their political masters in Delhi, BJP.
What's
TV
making you say that?
wait. TVK is short of majority of the in assembly.
No, I
Only
get it,
18.
but why are you saying? I mean, when you are making the allegation that they are intolerant to criticism and they're stifling voice, as the opposition, the principal opposition in Tamil Nadu, what's making you say that?
Because every day in Tamil Nadu, people are getting arrested over very small voice of dissent for genuine issues, for the livelihood issues.
Like?
People are getting arrested. You can see our DMK legal team, our legal wing has been working overtime, full time, securing bail for people. You can see in the media, very youth Gen Z people who voted for Vijay, you are saying, they are getting arrested.
Whom are you talking about? You're talking about the YouTuber.
YouTuber, there are a lot of people you can see in the media. Like
No, if you're talking about Udaynidhi and YouTuber, there's the other side to it as well. Shekhar Vijay, how would you respond to what DMK is alleging?
See,
Our Udaynidhi is our party leader. He's not a Gen Z. This thing, he's a Gen Z leader. What I'm telling you is this TVK government. They want to see smooth sailing of the government, which is short of majority.
Shekhar
They want to
Vijay,
save the
respond to
government.
this. How do you
So,
look at this?
They want to please their political masters in Delhi. That's why they are pro BJP policies. It is a
See,
conscious policy decision to suppress protests and this thing.
Okay.
So
Okay, let me
DMK
just go
will-
across to Shekhar Vijay. Shekhar Vijay, make your point
let me
very
complete.
quickly so I can go
DMK
across to
DMK
Mr.
has a very
Rao.
rich
See,
tradition
I
of
think it's just a game
fighting
of
for
political
people causes.
opponentship. Yeah. At the end of the day, I think the TVK government has made a mistake. They have course corrected it. They've realized that how big the problem could be, and I think better sense prevailed, and they course corrected it. I think this is a knock on the head for every government. Every government should not take the youth for granted. It's not just about Gen Z, but it's about youth and their aspirations. And I think opposition parties would want to obviously bring the TVK government down because the TVK government has made a lot of changes in the last 90 odd days. In the things which they've done. And I think what's also most important here is how quickly has the government reconciled to this, what kind of change they've made, and how they've made a difference to this. The fact that Gen Z has voted in for them, and like you were talking about the numbers earlier, right? Around 69% of the first-time voters voted for TVK actually speaks for itself. The numbers don't lie. And at the end of the day, I think the party is in power. There will be opposition which will obviously be after them and say that, you're not doing these things right. And that's the opposition's responsibility and accountability which they're supposed to do in the parliament. They need to check
Okay.
them. That's the credibility at place. But what's also important is what is the government really doing? What is the state government really doing? And what action are they taking?
Right. I know, Mr. Prabhu, you want to come? I'll get back to you. I'll get back to you. There's a gentleman waiting very patiently. Give me 30 seconds. Give me a few minutes. There's a gentleman waiting very patiently for his first reaction to be made. Let me just come to you, Mr. Pentapati Pulla Rao. You know, it's interesting what's happened in Tamil Nadu. Because whichever government has come to power, you've had orders, crackdowns, actions that have shocked people from unexpected circles. So you obviously have BJP that is criticized for it. At some point, you were even the left government in Kerala was criticized for some of the orders that they came out with. You've had similar criticisms of other governments in the state in India as well. Is this a new government testing waters? Is this a government trying to understand what direction to take? Why I'm asking you this is because it's interesting. BJP, that has been at the forefront of many protests for that matter, including black flag protests and I don't know what all protests, they have gone to say, oh yes, there must not be any protests. Students are supposed to be studying. Why join political protests?
Yeah, I think, both our friends have spoken on various political angles. The main thing is, I think, the administration, such orders are initiated usually by the bureaucracy and they are judged, assessed by the political leadership and then passed. It is a very important order. And such an order, imagine sending it in written form all over the state, in such explicit form, mentioning potential agitators, all of that. And it is not even a confidential document. Yes, earlier governments issue such orders, but they would be confidential documents. Here, it seems to me that the Vijay government has still not got control of the bureaucracy or they're not able to manage it. How could such an order be issued at all? It is anti-democratic anyway. And if you want to concentrate only on law and order, they should have been amended suitably. That peaceful protests are allowed, but violence will not be tolerated, blah, blah, etc. So therefore, it is two things. What was the education minister doing at such an order? And secondly, what was the department doing? How did they issue such an order? Was it the Home Ministry which started this note? Or the Chief Minister's office? Or the Education Ministry? Obviously, there was some discussion at some level. But the seriousness of such an outcome was never assessed. So this gives one to wonder when you take orders, there is much thought going into it or not. For example, I believe an order was issued giving every MLA a new car, 75,000 rupees, this unheard of. There was no much discussion. There was no debate about it. Nobody asked, is this correct for a state to spend every month crores of rupees, endless amounts? Therefore, I would say that the government is failing to carefully judge issues, not for the short term, for the long term. And it is definitely still not got used to the fact that it is a government and it is not a political party trying to get into government. This is a very serious lapse and it shows a lack of judgment or a very bad decision-making process. How can such an order get out without, thinking of all the pros and cons? Even I don't think the BJP government in Delhi has given any such orders in writing anywhere, as far as I know. So this is a serious lapse. And it should be debated within themselves. Why they did such a thing? Who initiated it? Who is the advisor? Where is this going?
Okay, Mr. Prabhu, you wanted to make a point. Make your point, please.
Yeah, this TVK government, they want to ensure this protest, they don't turn into something big or into a student movement. So they want to nip this in the bud, everything in the bud. And the respected co-panelists, as they mentioned out, this government is very short on experience and administrative efficiency, and people are seeing the results. And to extent to which TVK government believes in democracy can be, I can quote one incident. Mr. Ramesh, who is the HRC minister, he said in a political rally that we will make Mr. Vijay CM of Assembly, whereas there is no opposition. That is the extent to which TVK believes in democracy.
Shekhar Vijay, come in. This is interesting that the DMK has brought this point out. It's interesting. We don't, I mean, I don't want to get into the intention and the spirit of what was said at that time and how it is being quoted, but nonetheless, this is what politics is about. This is how it plays out. And to think, this order would have come at a time which is coinciding with CJP starting its school theek karo andolans and several other andolans. And, at one level, even the governments that are going on and saying that they must not be allowed in the school, they must not be allowed to get inside schools and make videos and so on and so forth. There's even criticism to that. They may argue that it's for security reasons, there are children involved, profiling them, putting out their pictures, so on and so forth, but that can be done with accountability as well. There can be ways of ensuring that if CJP wants to come in, they do it in processes that are done the right way. Very high-handed for that matter, a very high moral ground for me to say this. That's not how politics works. That's not how optics does. But for what DMK is saying, to have a parallel coming from Tamil Nadu, from a chief minister like this possibly, would you say, is one of the worst self-goals of Vijay in just about 100 days, despite the correctional steps?
Yeah, but Sneha, they've also done some positive steps also. When you talk about corruption being eliminated or eradicated, or trying to automate certain systems, they've done certain things which really work for them. You have to understand this is the real test for Vijay, whether he controls the youth, and it's whether he trusts them. And not just for Vijay, but for every party. I think every party, there is some kind of distrust they have with the youth, and that's going to be a big problem for them. They cannot alienate the youth from them, and that's going to happen eventually. What's really important is how you manage the youth, how you collaborate with them, how you coordinate with them. See, Vijay's political strength is just connect with young Tamil Nadu. So the smartest thing TVK can do is to trust that every youth can make its own political choices and decisions. If you believe the youth are your strength, you don't need to fear competing ideologies. The fact that he can trust them, going forward, the fact that he can empower them and say, I trust you to take the right decisions. I think that's important, to create an even playing ground where the youth know what kind of decisions they can make. And I think it happens everywhere. In every part of India, you have the youth which is involved in protest. You have the youth, you have political parties also involved in that. Every party is involved in protest in certain form. It starts in colleges. You have ABBP, you have NSUI, everything happens there. So I don't think any political party can say, we don't get involved in protest in schools and colleges. It happens. We've all been a part of it. The point is, how do we use it properly? That's important. How do we look at change? How do we look at leadership? And how do we ensure that the youth are empowered to do the right thing?
Right.
And with CJP coming in, it's also important they do it in the right way. And also the parties trust them, because at the end of the day, if they're making the schools look better, it will benefit India as a whole. I think that's the bigger picture.
Right. Thank you very much, Shekhar Vijay. Thank you so much for joining us. Pentapati Pullarao, thank you so much for joining us. Mr. Prabhu, thank you so much for joining us.